Oh, wow. Another beautiful rendition. Thank you so much. This is something I do occasionally, conversations with Todd, where I open the floor up to questions that you might have been wondering about regarding things I've said or maybe things I haven't said. I do like to kind of restrict it to the sort of topics we might discuss on a Sunday. I don't want to get into church business matters at this meeting, that we can save those for church business meetings. And also ask that you try to, keep your questions relatively brief so that I can actually have time to get to as many as there might be, and do try to ask a question, if you will, too, even if you need to take a couple of minutes to explain the origins of that question. So I'd appreciate it. So just indicate by raising your hand, and if we'll bring a microphone to you. And Shane had his hand up first, and then we'll bring one up here to Lynn afterwards.
This week, David Lynch passed away, which was very sad for me, director of Twin Peaks and The Elephant Man and Blue Velvet and many others. And I don't know if he meant a lot to you, but it is kind of making me in a film frame of mind, and I know you're a little bit of a film buff, and so I'd be curious if you could talk about maybe one or two of your favorite movies, one or two things that you've seen recently that you really liked, and what role film has played. What do you like about it? What intrigues you about it? What's it done for you?
Yeah, thank you. I would say that I've not been a huge David Lynch fan. I've not been, disliked him by any means. My favorite of his was The Elephant Man. I mean, it was what a heart-wrenching and moving film that was. So that was as far as those go. I have to say I don't have a lot of depth when it comes to movies. I spend more time on nonfiction, world interest stuff, reading. And so for me, film is an opportunity to get to sort of just move into a simpler, mindless phase. So I would much rather watch a vampire sucking blood or Liam Neeson going after the bad guys than I would watching movies that are meaningful. In fact, a lot of times I resist the movies that are most meaningful because they require you to watch a lot of pain and injustice that people experience. And that stuff really gets to me, so I would rather see somebody get justice. I will find you, and I will kill you. But my absolute favorite movie of all time is Gandhi. That came out when I was 14 years old, before I was a deep thinker about anything. And to me, it's just the perfect movie. I mean, it won multiple Academy Awards, including Best Actor and Best Picture and Best Director and all that. But that movie was transformative, for one, because it introduced me to Gandhi, and two, it introduced me to his ideas about how we should live together in a world. And I found it just beautiful. The acting was stupendous, the cinematography was stupendous, the sets were stupendous, the story was stupendous, the costumes, I mean, just everything about it was really incredible. And I find that was really important to me. It was actually a Unitarian, I'm forgetting his name right now, back in the early 20th century, Unitarian minister who introduced Gandhi to the Western world. That's how Gandhi, the plight of Gandhi, became something that we began to care about on this side of the planet. So his values have long been connected with liberal religion. So that was a very moving film for me. There's been some others, but one I would mention is the film The Exorcist. Now this is very opposite of Gandhi, obviously, and it still terrifies me. I mean, I won't watch it. I saw it when I was 8 years old when it came out. Terrible. My parents were terribly irresponsible people. Took us to, they used to have these things called drive-ins. And you'd get in a car, and the kids would all hide under blankets, and the parents would drive in, and they'd show these movies on these big screens. And so that's what The Exorcist was playing on, and I watched that movie like this the whole time. Scared the hell out of me. But as I got older, I tried to understand why that was so terrifying. And one, because I was 8 years old, so it was traumatic, right? But so I went back and watched it as an adult one time, and I realized, oh my gosh, if you look at this little girl who is being, they claim she's possessed, all she's doing is what kids do, albeit in exaggerated form, right? She urinates when she feels like urinating. She talks back when she's not supposed to talk back. She spits out her split pea soup. What kid doesn't want to do that? Right? She doesn't want you to ram religion down her throat. I mean, all these things that kids are forced on kids. And so as children, we are taught to be afraid of ourselves. That's what the word demon actually means. It's your daemon. It's your original self. It's your truth. There's a book series about this now, The Golden Compass, about the cutting out your daemon, and it leaves you lifeless and soulless, and that's what we are. We've been told that the thing that is most special about us is the devil, and it's bad. And I just found that to be a profoundly moving message for me, and it has motivated many of my sermons and how I speak and how I engage with people in the world. Many years ago, it had its 25th anniversary, and it was playing at one of the biggest theaters in Louisville. These were also places you could go to watch movies. It had these big screens that they would project things onto. I don't know if any of you have gone to those lately. And I took the afternoon off at work, and I went to watch it because I said, I've got to get over this thing. I've got to go watch this. And I went into this theater, and there was nobody in it. Nobody. And I said, all right, I'm going to walk down to the center of this damn thing. I didn't even stay in the aisle. I walked right down to the middle seat in that big theater. And I watched that movie again. Of course, there's sounds all over. It was really, really freaky. But I had a really profound dream that night. I think I was in a high school or something, and there was this little. It was this little girl, with her demonic face and everything, and she was just. Everybody was terrified of her, and I went and sat down and had lunch with her. And we were able to embrace each other, and I was able to embrace her humanity. And I've had a lot of dreams like that whenever I do watch The Exorcist, these really profound symbols of me connecting with something that has been shunned within me. So I consider both of those movies to be perhaps the most profound movies that I've watched in my life. So thank you. Good question. And then Lynn had a question up here, so thank you.
Am I allowed to ask two?
Well, go ahead, ask two, and I don't have to answer them both.
Well,
but
first one is easy. What is your favorite thing to do when you have free time?
What's my favorite thing? Watch Liam Neeson movies.
Okay. I thought that might be your answer.
No, my favorite.
What do you do?
These days, one of my favorite. So I mean, there's a lot of things I do. I don't have a lot of free time to do them, but I have various interests. One, I am absolutely head over heels in love with my dog Wiley. I've never had a bond with an animal. I mean, a lot of dogs we've loved, but I mean, this guy and I are like, there's some connection between us that's here right now, So I love to spend time with him. It's been hard this winter because it's too cold to take him for his long walks, and he doesn't understand when he looks at his leash, and I say, no, we can't do that. but I love to take him for long walks. And I have recently have taken up something called Krav Maga, which is a type of self-defense system, but it requires a lot of physical exercise, push-ups and sit-ups and squats, and I went a few weeks ago, and I couldn't go back for a week because every muscle in my body was sore. So that's really why I did it. But it's based on Israeli fighting. It's really close combat, is what those words mean. So it's techniques you would learn to defend yourself, if you were confronted physically by some aggressor. And oddly enough, I found it really enjoyable. I did Aikido many years ago, and I found the philosophy of that really, really neat. But I wanted something that was going to require me at 60 years old to exert myself, and I didn't want to go to aerobics. So, but it's been really fun. It'll be a year in February that I started doing that, and there's no real philosophy to it. It's just defense and exercise. Stay in shape, be prepared. But the thing that I really love that I don't get much time for is producing 360-degree videos. And I have taken some courses on virtual reality software, just creating virtual environments too. So I'm working on a big project with that. But I've produced 3 360 videos that you can find on YouTube. One is about the time that Peggy and I saved our year of trash. We saved all of our garbage for a year from Earth Day to Earth Day. And I just couldn't imagine really getting rid of it. It got a little bit of press here in town, but I didn't want it to go away without somehow preserving what just 2 people can produce in a year. And what better way to preserve that than a 360 environment where you can actually stand in front of that garbage and see what it looks like. So I did a whole story on saving it, but then what happens to it when I do throw it away. So that's on there, and then we had, then I did one last year just on this cemetery down here, the Greenwood Memorial Terrace, and it has these haunted steps. One thing I really dislike about 360-degree videos, I'm an old video producer, by the way. I had a career as a video producer. And so when people make these 360-degree videos, they try to make them like you would an actual video production. They put music soundtracks behind them, and they try to do all this stuff. Well, the point of 360 is to put you in that place, right? That's its sole purpose, to take you from this place and put you in another place as if you're there. So we don't hear music when we go outside, right? We don't hear music when we go to places unless it's part of the natural environment. So I wanted to find a real visceral experience, and I found out there's this old staircase that's supposed to be haunted that goes up the back of that cemetery. So I said, well, what would happen if I put people on those steps in a 360 environment? And actually, Shane went with me because I was too scared to go by myself at night. And so it's kind of a dark setting. You're really just there, and you hear some coyotes. But I also talk about the incredible history of that cemetery and the people, some of the famous people that are buried there. It's a remarkable cemetery. So I loved putting that together, and that's also online. So you can find those on there. Anyway, I love that, and I'm hoping to do more with Spokane. I really love this city, and I'd love to be able to help people who aren't here come here through this technology. So those are some hobbies, yeah. Jerry's got a question right behind you there.
Well, this is a little more challenging, I think, of a question, but the question is...
It's not math, is it?
No.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
Do you find commonalities between, say, Christian mysticism, Buddhism, and, let's say, Hindu mysticism, which is called Vedanta?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I have an affection for apophatic mysticism, which is the type of mysticism that tries to get at truth by getting rid of beliefs, right? So rather than accumulating knowledge and truth, the idea is that you're like a stone carver. You chip away at what you think you know, and you come more to the truth. And all mystical traditions have this an apophatic approach to mysticism, including Buddhism and Hinduism and Christianity. I would say that the mystics that as far as world religions go, I'm more. I find more interest in the non-Western religions, some of those that you mentioned. But when it comes to mysticism, I prefer the Christian mystics. Now, I read a great book years ago. I can't remember the title of it, but it was written by a Westerner who went to study in a Buddhist monastery, and he tells this wonderful story of these Christian priests and Christian monks or mystics who came to visit with the Buddhist priest and the Buddhist monks. And the entire time, the Christian priest and the Buddhist priest argued with each other. They could not comprehend what one another was talking about or didn't agree. And the Buddhist monks and the Christian monks just sat together in peace because they had the same experience. They knew exactly where one another was coming from. But the Christian mystics, like Meister Eckhart, for example, who would say, what does God do all day? God gives birth, or God is absolute nothing. These sort of sayings to me get at the heart of what should be important about religion. Karen started off with this wonderful reading about having the questions, and that's really what mysticism is about, and I think it is also the heart of what Unitarianism is supposed to be about. In fact, one of the first sermons I ever gave was, I think, first and foremost, I think you might have given that sermon one time. Yeah, Gordon, when I was absent, it was the first sermon I gave here. And it gets at that point that the fundamental thing about us is that we question ourselves, we question what others tell us, we question everything, and we're chipping away at the truth in order to have a higher understanding. So yeah, I think there's a real connection between my liberal religion and mysticism. I would again restrict my interest, though, to the apophatic style of mysticism, which has to do with letting go of what we think we know, rather than trying to accumulate knowledge or to just say, here is the approach to the world, because there is forms of mysticism where people think they have a particular way of looking at the world that is mystical, and that is actually the answer that we all need. And when it gets to that level, I don't have much interest in it. It's boring. As a philosopher, you can always poke holes in just about anything someone thinks is true. But you can't really poke holes in people that are getting rid of truths in order to seek the truth. So, yes, please.
Allow me to first apologize for dropping my phone. Secondly, you have these special collections. Mm-hmm. What is the one that hits closest to home for you, and why?
Oh my gosh. Well, there's been so many, I probably couldn't name a lot of them. I will cheat, though. There is one that we do a couple times a year at least, and that is for my ministerial discretionary fund. This is a fund that a lot of ministers have because we are approached by people for help from time to time. And so this congregation has been incredibly generous in putting significant amounts of money in that fund so that I can help people out when they need help. And if you think about what people need help for, it's usually a fairly major expense, you know. My God, we just had to have a water heater replaced, and it cost $3,000, you know. Not for the water heater, just that's what installation and taxes and everything are at this point. So imagine if somebody is just late on their rent or their mortgage for a month. It's a significant amount of money. So you need a significant amount of money to help people out, right? Somebody comes to you and says, I need $1,000 to pay my mortgage this month, or to make, you know, pay for a car repair or a water heater or whatever. You can't say, well, I'll give you $300. Right? It's a waste of $300. It doesn't do anyone any good. So, and that's why it's not just because I get to help people with that, but that it's significant enough to where I can. And that shows the generosity of this congregation to want to be able to make a difference in people's lives. And oftentimes those are for members of our own congregation, but a lot of times it's for people who walk in the door and say they need help. So to me, that's one of the most significant ones we do each year, and it touches me most because it is really, and I always joke about this, me expressing your generosity, right, to others, your kindness, your compassion to others. And it's discretionary because I can't really tell you who these people are, right? You just know that it's happening. Did you have a question? Yeah, right in front. If you'll hand the mic to, there we go.
Hi.
Hi.
I was just wondering how you came to find the Unitarian Universalists. Like, how did you end up preaching for this faith?
Yeah, so started off real quickly. I started off as a Southern Baptist. Actually, I was not in a church home growing up, but growing up in California as a teenager, I became part of the born-again Christian movement, which was big in the 70s. And the closest church to my house was a Southern Baptist. So, you know, it was all I knew at that time. A church was a church. So anyway, I became a Southern Baptist, really got into it. Spent 10 years as a Southern Baptist, which included me going to a Southern Baptist college and studying for the Baptist ministry and being ordained, and then leaving there and going to a Baptist seminary in Louisville, Kentucky, which I did not finish. But it's where Peggy and I met, and we got married there. Peggy was also a student at the Southern Baptist Seminary. Now in college, I had to take philosophy as part of my coursework, and that really began to open my mind and caused me to question everything. So by the time I got to Louisville, I was really done with Southern Baptist and Christianity for that matter, and needed to do something for a living. We got married about that time in '88, and then we were missing church. We missed the community. We missed people, and so I said, well, I'd heard about these Unitarians. You know, they're supposedly they have no dogma or anything you have to believe, but the community's there. You want to give them a try. So that's really when we started going to the Unitarian Church in 1989. And then I guess, I started a period of really searching, trying to figure out myself and who I was and, the trauma of the past, all that stuff. Which was good, which was, very meaningful. I mean, to be able to say, why the hell am I so afraid of The Exorcist? I wouldn't even thought that as a young man, So to try to figure that stuff out. And about 10 years in, well, I met a retired Unitarian minister, actually probably shortly after it was the first day we went to the Unitarian Church. Yeah, Phil Smith, a retired Unitarian minister, was a guest speaker, and he spoke way over my head. I didn't understand anything he was talking about. But he was talking about the soul, and he was talking about it as if it were a present reality, which you don't get in the conservative Baptist faith. That's something for after you die. And just something was stirring in me. I was like, what is this? And I was very shy, but I forced myself to go up and talk to him afterwards. I kept turning around, and then I go back very shy, and we ended up getting lunch that week, and we became very good friends. Peggy and I became very good friends of Phil and his wife Sharon. He really became a mentor, and he was speaking regularly at the Clifton Unitarian Church in Louisville. We were members at the First Unitarian Church. And then on occasions when our relationship got to the point where he was out of town, he'd ask me to do the things like lead his dream group, or because I was just kind of a student of his, and then to speak in his place. And then when he retired and left the state, the church asked me to be their speaker, and then they eventually asked me to be their minister, and that's how I re-entered into the ministry. So I was working bivocationally as corporate video producer at that point. I was in TV news for a few years before that. And I was, content to sort of do this bivocational thing. And I was struggling to get ahead and all this kind of stuff in that chosen field. And nothing ever worked out for me. I got very good at it, but it just wasn't very lucrative for me for some reason. And at 35, I was like, wait a minute. Everything I do in this church thing keeps just unfolding for me. I'm not trying to get back into the ministry. I didn't aspire to be a Unitarian minister. These things just keep opening up, and I've got these two tracks in my life, one of which has been struggle and hardship and disappointment, and if I did achieve what I was hoping to achieve, it was disappointing when I got there, and this other thing's very fulfilling, and I'm good at it, and it keeps happening. So I went that direction, and I was at Clifton Unitarian Church for about 12 years. For about 6 years of that, I was bivocational. 6 years in, I was fired from my job as a corporate video producer after taking a very public stand in favor of gay marriage. So I spent another 6 years just kind of making it on what the church could give me, and Peggy had started teaching. In fact, I got fired from my job, and her health insurance kicked in like 2 days after we lost ours. She'd gone back. She was a stay-home mom, but was working on her master's and went back to become a school teacher, which she's been doing ever since. And then after about 6 years, I was like, okay, I'm running out of home equity. I'm going to have to either get a bigger church or get a second job, and I don't want to get a second job. So we went into search, and that's how we ended up here in 2011. And so now I've been here even longer. I think I'm on 14 years? 14 years, yeah. So thank you. I'll take one more brief question. Oh, got one up here, and then we'll call it quits for tonight. So.
Hi, my name's Barbara.
Hi, Barbara.
Hi. How big was that trash?
How big was what?
How big was your year's worth of trash?
Oh, yeah. Well, it was pretty amazing. The stats are in the video, but it would have covered, I mean, it spills out. You can't just pile it up, but it would have covered at least half of this stage. Most of it was plastic, unfortunately. Some glass, some cans, and a lot of paper. And so the stats on how much each weighed and that kind of stuff are in that video. I will say one thing I learned from that experience was I don't quite have the relationship with plastic that a lot of people have. I did start saying, and after that experience, saying that the good life comes wrapped in plastic, right? So if you think you're going to cut down on plastic, you might as well just slit your throat right now. Sorry to be so crude. Everything comes in plastic, everything. So we can't get away from it. So, but our problem with plastic is not overuse, but the way we discard it. We have to come up with better ways to discard it, because the reason that plastic is such a problem in the environment is that it does not lose its carbon bonds. So it doesn't create methane gas. It doesn't create carbon pollution. it really is an excellent source to help prevent the kind of deterioration of the atmosphere through other things that human beings are doing. So my thing is to find ways to reuse and recycle plastic, perhaps even using it in more ways than we've been using it, for more things, stronger things in our roads and these things that aren't putting out the methane gas and the carbon emissions that so much other waste is doing. So if we could learn to keep it out of the oceans, which we're working on, since organizations are doing now, and to keep it out of the landfills, and to recycle and reuse more of it, I think it could be a real game changer for the environment. But it is the bulk of our waste. And if you imagine, a platform like this sitting in your front yard every year, this was just from 2 people, and obviously this is a very anecdotal amount of trash, but on your apartment doorsteps, or in your apartment, or on your lawn and your neighbor's lawn, and every neighbor in the country, it is very alarming. It is very alarming to see what a year's worth of trash looks like. But it is also very difficult to do anything about it, because packaging is part of our life. So on that good note, thank you for your time. Well, we're a little bit late. Maybe we'll forego the closing song.